Hi guys, Steve here. Today I got to look at the Tier 3 American premium battleship, the Arkansas. I get some questions from time to time from you guys about this ship, if it'll be available again, which I don't know, or how does it play, because I think a lot of players see these out there, and I think they tend to do pretty well, and I'll explain why in a little bit here, but it's essentially like a Wyoming class battleship. There's a little bit of tweaks between the stats here and there. The main difference is, and it's a fairly extraordinary difference, is the module setup on the Arkansas is essentially a Tier 7 battleship. You have 4 module slots available. I have mine spec'd out with secondary battery mod 2. I find in these lower tier battleship games you get into a lot of close quarter battleship duels. I think higher tiers secondary batteries tend to be, in general, more effective as an anti-destroyer kind of countermeasure, but that might change with the German secondaries. We'll see how those perform when they're released, but out of the ship lines we have currently, I have damage control systems on slot 2. You could put the steering gears mod on there if you want. I find the ship is pretty maneuverable for a tier 3 battleship as is, so I prefer to just run with the damage control systems. It has slot 3 target acquisition systems. That's the only choice there. I don't find that one to be a massive benefit in a lot of cases, but it doesn't hurt to put it on, and there are certain situations where it does hurt or help your situation. So, but the main one, the kind of the crown jewel, is the artillery plotting room mod 2. This is, I believe, it's only available on American battleships at this point. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since I've kind of looked at all the mods on all the different ships. But that one decreases your dispersion by about 11%, which is extremely beneficial, especially on these tier 3 battleships, which tend to have kind of wild dispersion. Especially if you're running Dewey, you end up with Dewey dispersion, which is kind of like shooting in a completely dark situation. You don't know what you're gonna get. But if you had a commander like Lee or Sims running this ship with the artillery plotting room, you're gonna have an extremely accurate tier 3 battleship. So whether or not this ship will ever be available, I don't know, but I think it's important to understand what you're dealing with when you see these out here. Even when I'm not playing it myself, I give a lot of respect to the Arkansas out there. I think it's a very strong ship, and I think it comes down mainly to the modules that are available on it. If the ship is properly spec'd, then it is potentially very dangerous. So on here we got a Haven domination match. Now this is before the update, so the game's not over already. You'll notice this is the old domination mode. But I've spawned on the strong side again. If you've heard me talk about Haven before, I normally talk about the strong side being the bottom left for the self spawn and the top right for the north side. And what I tend to do with the battleship down here is just try and anchor this while my team captures it, and then we hopefully we clear out the side here on the left, and then we can turn our attention to the north, which is, as per usual, they've captured their available strong side objective, and then they're attempting to push into our home base objective by following the typical clockwise motion that tends to happen on this map. But you can see by holding down this position, I'm already encountering a lot of broadside targets that are, once they've secured their objective, they tend to push straight forward to the southeast objective, and that's going to give you a lot of opportunities to fire on broadside targets. And I'm perfectly broadside to them. That should probably be doing a lot better job angling towards them. But I think they tend to be kind of blindly focused on what's in front of them, at least at lower tiers like this. So sometimes you can get away with that, but now I am moving into a stronger angled position. So now the Campbelltown's an interesting ship. I believe it's roughly the same as the Smith. It was available for free for those who had PS Plus, I think it's called. I don't have that, so I didn't pick up the ship, but I think the Smith, if it's like the Smith, which I believe it is, the Smith to me is like a fun ship to play. I don't think it's necessarily the greatest ship, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would disagree with me. I don't play it very often, so I don't have the best feel for it, but whenever I do, it's just kind of like a goofball match. At least that's how I play it. But so that's how I'm approaching the Campbelltown. And here we have a Kuma. Again, he's full broadside, and he's focusing on what's closest to him. Now, if you're trying to understand player psychology, 9 out of 10 times the ships are going to be fighting the ships that are closest to him. You know, it's at least until the player base gets a lot better. That's usually what you're going to be able to find. So you can, if you're kind of anchoring a position like this from like a second layer, and you're kind of holding down a position, you're going to find a lot of broadside opportunities. So that's essentially what I'm doing here. I'm not really concerned about moving a whole lot. I don't consider this base camping just because this is the natural flow of this map is, again, a clockwise situation. So I'm just expecting, I'm positioning myself where I'm expecting the enemy to go, and they're obliging me. Now here we do have a Wyoming, and again, that's kind of the sister ship to the Arkansas. And it looks like he's doing a pretty good job of angling. You could do some potential damage there. If you took that shot, you want to be shooting more in the upper hull into the superstructure. And now we have a Congo as well. Now this is an interesting situation. When you have two battleships that are kind of both playing against you at the same time, what I try and do, if at all possible, is play the ship that's closest to the open side. So what I mean by that is right now my guns are pointed to the right, and that's my angle's open there. To get my guns on target, instead of being perfectly pointed at them, I've turned to the left, which opens the guns. That's just my own terminology. Those of you that are familiar with my videos have heard me say that a lot. So because the Congo is the furthest to my open side, which in this case is the right, he's the ship that I need to be targeting. If I was to angle towards the Wyoming, I would have to basically open my ship's angle all the way, so it'd be basically broadside at this Congo. Would be a very dangerous play to make. So if you're in situations where you're kind of trying to figure out which ship should I be targeting, I always try and play the one that's the furthest to, you know, your open side again. Now there's going to be certain situations where there's exceptions to that rule. There always is to any rule, but in general that's a good starting point. Now the Congo, if you haven't played that ship, or it's been a while since you played it, it has very steep firing angles, so it can be pointed almost vertically and get all its guns to bear on you. He's not playing it 100% accurately there. He is angled very well though, so I'm not, until this moment he opens up his angle. I don't know why. I think it was just a mental error, or he was getting frustrated with the situation. But we were unable to land a citadel there, but we did get some juicy shots in on him. And now here's the situation where you can see the secondaries are opening. In general, the IJN battleships are going to have an advantage when it comes to secondaries against American battleships, but again, because I have that first module slotted out for secondary battery, I am at least equal to him in this situation, if not even better. Now again, if you were spec'd out with Lee, how I would play him if I ever received him, fingers crossed, I would spec him out as a secondary build, and between the secondary battery mod 2 and Lee's natural skills that you can set him up with, we could actually do quite a bit of damage there in that kind of a close quarters situation. Having taken out the Congo, now the Wyoming is moving into position. And again, this being a sister ship to the Arkansas, you'll see, because of the module advantage we have here, that we're actually able to outrange and damage him when it comes to secondaries. Now he's playing a little wide open. What you need to realize with these tier 3 and 4 American battleships is it's not wise to get all your guns to bear in most situations. You have to basically go perfectly broadside to get all the guns firing. There's always that middle gun that's obstructed by the tower that's on the ship, so usually when I'm firing that gun, I will fire my main salvo at whoever I'm angled to, and then I'll look for a target that happens to be more off to my side and fire that as the secondary target, and then quickly switch back to the main ship that I'm engaging. So that's how I tend to play these battleships in terms of their angling. Don't be too overzealous trying to, you'd rather be well angled and defend yourself from incoming fire and not fire all guns, then open yourself up to potentially deadly salvos like that one. So I hope you guys did enjoy the look at the Arkansas. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, you should consider subscribing. I got a lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions for me, leave them below. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you later. Alright, peace.